Good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna continue with the project a little bit. I wanna showcase some of the fixes and things that I came up with, kind of outside of the video. So that's what I'm gonna do for now. Before committing. First of all, I renamed the box to bounds, and that's how I'm going to represent this. So the bounds can just be visualized as a box, and I'm going to use the bounds to, later you'll see, I use the bounds now to define the size of the sprite that's being rendered, instead of using like an arbitrary 64 by 64 size. Just declaring the bounds and creating the bounds, renaming the bounds constructor. Here there's a little typo in, because I did a search and replace. It should really be called draw bounds, like that, and that's going to generate an error down the line. But the error won't show up right now because the part that the error is in is commented out. Therefore, it won't show up. This is just more renaming, it's nothing new. Here is what I'm talking about, so let's just close the structure. You can see that now, instead of using an arbitrary cell width and height, I'm using the bounds components size field, and that's kind of the equivalent. Sorry, for some reason I have a Blender session open. Here we, what we did is we fixed the issue that was occurring with the tiles losing their sort order. So for some reason, I'm not exactly sure why flecs is behaving like that. I don't know if it's a behavior or something I'm doing wrong. I didn't have time to look into it yet, but when we update the matching cell with a pair, it kind of, I guess it touches the entity and it changes its sort order for some reason. So then later the sprite rendering system by default was misrendering the tiles, but now I figured out if I just use the same back to front isometric rendering by looping in a different manner over the tiles, that it would behave correctly. So that's how I fixed it, essentially temporarily. Eventually I will have a sorting function that's used in the flecs system, but that's for another moment. For now I want to keep the default layout just for now. Something else I did in this project that's new, this is entirely new, is I created another loop again, and this loop, it kind of creates an entity called a fog of war entity, and it kind of adds that new entity to a stack component, which for some reason I did not present up above. But the stack component is kind of like it's just an array of entity, essentially. So the cells now have a stack of entity that they can contain. I'm thinking about perhaps I'm going to use like a relationship in the flecs library to represent this, but for now I'm not too sure about how to handle like having multiple entities for one same relationship on another entity. So for now I created a component that has an array of entities that I can just kind of iterate over. I call it stack because for the purpose that I'm going to use it now, it's really going to be used as a stack. So it's going to be whenever we have to draw these entities, we're going to start from, I mean, it might be not really a stack actually, but I don't know how you call that, a reverse stack. Anyway, it's just a name I gave, right? But because we were going to draw the first entity, then the second, then the third. So the order has to be pretty defined. Maybe someone can tell me how that's called the proper way. So this is the old version. We could just remove that. So I just noticed that the problem is the theme I'm using for the green theme is kind of making it hard to see the green blocks in the commit history. This is why I keep missing like new stuff I've added. Anyway. Let's go down. Oh. Something happened. I think I'm gonna go manually. I don't know exactly what happened. I think I might have finished like all the commits and it brought me to the new image, which is a binary file. I don't really know. So yeah, I created a new prefab called a board object, which has an origin and bounds. It has a grid element, so it has like grid coordinates, and it has a sprite. And then I created a kind of a sub prefab, like a prefab derived from a board object called a fog of war, which is what I instantiated in the other part that I showed you before. And I also added a stack component to the cell prefab. So all the cells have a stack, kind of an array of entities that they represent their content, and then the content is going to be board objects. So one of these board objects can be the fog for now. So you can have a fog. Now I might not actually do it like that eventually, but I was actually just, because this is definitely going to be part of the system, maybe not the fog. The fog might be extracted to something, kind of another system eventually, but I wanted to try this to make sure it would render properly. And I didn't do much more. So what's happening in fact is, if we look a little bit more closely at the load map, this is the part that interests me. This is all new code. I create a fog, then I get the origin of the fog, and for now I kind of like hard coded the like I take the fog and I set its position so that it matches the cell's position, and I put a little manual offset there that I'm gonna have to integrate way better in a real project, which kind of puts the fog at an offset position. The fog is this. Sorry. The fog is this long block. The way it's made is just a pixel art image, and the 192 comes from the height of that image minus 64 essentially, and the image is drawn so that if you could put a tile at the bottom perfectly and it would kind of fit on it. So what happens now that all of this is done, when I click play on the project, this is what I have now. It's completely filled with kind of these long isometric cells of fog, which are rendered back to front as well, because they're created right after the actual cells that we see, and they're also created in the same order as the cells, so they have this kind of default isometric order. Eventually what we'll have is we're kind of going to order these, because these entities are going to change eventually their default order when we move between maps and stuff. Inevitably there's going to be some noise, so to deal with that noise we're going to have a like different kind of layers to draw. So we're going to draw the floor, we're going to draw like all the entities and stuff, like step by step. It's going to be a default order, and yeah, that's just going to help us kind of, and we'll be able to kind of sort things so that in that default order, everything goes from back to front, essentially, so that the isometric this graphics can be displayed. So this is where we are at this point. Now I want to kind of do a few things today. One of the things I have on my list, let me bring that list. Well, I want to kind of have the fog have some opacity. And for this, I'll need to set up some stuff. I forgot exactly what in the SDL, just so that it supports like a blending. So I'll have to look into that. And once that's done, we're probably going to try to add a few other entities in there. Like I have this building that I want to try to mix with this kind of transparent fog. So this should be pretty easy. I don't think it's going to be too long. So we'll up right into that right now. All right. So yeah, let's add the transparency. Now, I think I have... I don't think it's that hard actually. I think we can just set it on the... We can just set it... Let me check. I did this before. I have it here on the side. Do I have it? Oh yeah, okay. There it is. So what we want to do for this, well, first of all, actually, let's just commit. So we fixed the sorting issue and added the fog of war as a game object test. So now let's open the structure. By the way, I'm sorry if you hear some cats. That have no control over this. So in the main, after we create the renderer, we're gonna set the vsync, and then we're gonna do a bunch of int for Vulkan and the GPU debug. And then we're gonna set the render draw blend mode. And we want blend mode. What is it? Oh, blend mode blend. Now I don't know if this is... We're just gonna play, and I'm curious to see if this has any impact on the frame. It really doesn't seem like it did anything. So I think it seems like it's running pretty well for now. I mean, obviously this computer is very good, but let's just see. This is called FPS. Oh, I won't be able to find it. In C99 maybe? I don't know how to find this application. I would like to see how much memory it's using and stuff, but I think it's because of the name I gave it. Whatever, but the map is pretty big. It's there's 56 tile high and 28 tiles wide, so it's like above something like this times 2, so we have like 3,000 something entities. It's not bad. Okay, so if we want to draw something with some transparency, well, maybe the best bet it would be just to create a transparent version of this image already. I don't know that there is any. I don't know if there's a way. I think it would be better. Let me see. I'm gonna make a quick search on Google. Set render opacity SDL. Oh, my cats are angry. I don't really know if there's a way to set the opacity. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna deal with this. All right, I separated the cats. My God, this is annoying. Now, just a day in the life. I don't know, in this example, I don't see. Oh, it's this. Set texture alpha mode. That's what I was looking for. I remember there was set color mode, but okay, so how about we do something like in the sprite we're gonna add a float for the opacity. I start to feel like we need a sprite constructor. I don't really know why we don't have one actually. And then in the sprite, actually, no, we don't have one. I don't know why I thought we would have one. I'm not gonna define the name actually for now. I feel like it might be better. Should skip render is gonna be false. It's gonna be, yeah, false. Opacity is gonna be 1. That's it. So we are going to add in the hooks. We're gonna add the sprite constructor. We're gonna add it to the sprite hooks, and then these hooks we're gonna associate it to the sprite component. So I think this is gonna be good. So when we go in the system to render a sprite, we use this here, and this we are passing these. Actually, we're not passing anything, so there's a tint there. If we pass the opacity here, it's starting to be a lot. So I'm wondering if maybe I'm gonna go in the sprite atlas, and I'm going to create a new structure called sprite params, and that's gonna have a uint32 for a tint and a float for opacity. And then here in this function, I'm gonna change it so that I'm taking the sprite parameter pointer called params, like this. So what's going to happen is I'm gonna create a new sprite params like this, which is possible because it's possible because we already include the sprite atlas header file, so we have this definition there, and then the opacity will be like this, and then we're gonna pass a pointer to the parameters. Now this function, which is the only place we're using it, instead here of using the param, we're gonna have to use the parameter tint. And same for this and that. So that's gonna be, you see, in fact, we already set the tint, so we're just gonna have to do the same thing. I could probably have put the alpha in the tint, but I don't know. Set texture alpha mode, and that's going to be the parameters opacity. Like that. Oh, it's a U. Oh, damn. It would have been so much better then. I don't know, actually. Do I use the last 8 bits for the opacity, or do I just create another 8-bit? It's a bit wasteful, but it's a little bit more clear. Look, we're gonna go scorch earth. There we go, like this. And then we are restoring the opacity to entirely opaque there, like this, 255. So now here, this is going to be tint R. This is going to be blue, this is going to be green. This here, we have to go there. This is gonna be a U in 8, the opacity. Let's find all the reference to it. There's only one, it's here. So it starts at 255. And then this here is fine. Okay, let's try playing the app. Okay, so everything is fine. So now, when I create the prefab for the fog of war, I'm going to take the sprite and I'll set the opacity to be 0. We don't have any fog. So then if I do this, we have partial fog. feel a bit strong too. Let's try 45. This one is... So what's happening in fact is we're gonna need to start the fog a little bit further so that we don't have like this weird effect on the outline. We want to crop out this effect, but otherwise it's starting to work. The texture might need to be a little bit more like contrast so that we really see something else than just like a purple, but the concept seems to be working. Yeah, we just need to... Sorry, I'm zooming in with... I'm closing in with my own face to the screen to see what the details I can see. This is making me think that like when we generate all the maps, all the cells, sorry, and create cells here, I think I still need to create a cell and also have this concept of whether or not... Maybe in fact I'm gonna have cells that don't have any renderer themselves. Like I'm gonna have the renderer of the cells kind of be attached when there's a matching tile. So that would allow me to generate cells outside of the stage boundary and have these cells contain a fog, potentially. I'm kind of thinking out loud. So if we create cells no matter what, then we set their origin no matter what, and this also is part of setting the origin. So everything, in fact, we're doing, we're gonna be doing, I think that it would work. The only thing that we would be doing, if my thinking is correct, the only thing that we would be doing that is in this, is in ISO stage would be, and in fact at this point it would be, it wouldn't be anything. I don't think we would have to check it here. We would just create all the cells, and then right now if we just press play, there would be some sort of problem, I think. Yeah, it generates at a diamond, which is fine, but it's not what we want right now. So in the prefab, I think I would kind of remove the remove the sprite. All right, so now obviously it's expecting a sprite in here, but let's just see if we can create the sprites. I was just kind of my hypothesis. Let's see if we can create the sprites when we create the cells, we can create the sprites. Actually, not when we create the cells, but when we load the map there. So we load the map. Actually, I'm having a doubt about what I'm gonna undo some of this. This can happen. I'm just gonna bring it back the way it is for now. The reason is I'm just like, I just feel like it's maybe it's overdoing it, because it's I have to kind of think carefully about these changes. So let's examine again load map, which is where the fog gets created. Okay. Right now I need a matching cell so that I can use I can place the origin at that position. This is why I feel like I'm forced to create cells and then attach the sprite to them interactively. But then I guess I'm just thinking like, is this really there's probably another way to do this, but it's kind of like the only way I can think about it for now. So here it means that this would always be true. There would always be a matching cell. When I create the game world, I create a tile, and then if the tile is not on the stage, it's going to be marked is on stage false. So when I load the map here, let's say I just disable the check for the matching cell, because we know it's always valid. But then I check if the tile so that I need to get the tile info. Let's get the constant. And then I'm gonna check if the tile info of that tile says that the tile is not on the stage, then we are just gonna skip. And otherwise we're gonna add the tile as an associated tile, and then we're gonna add to the cell the sprite, like I was saying. We're gonna do what I was saying before that. I kind of changed my mind, but that's just there's a lot of self-doubt in this process, so I have never totally done this project with this ECS approach, so you know, trying different techniques. In the prefab, I'm gonna remove the sprite from the cell like this. So by default, there's no sprite in the cells. And then when we load the map, we check if we add a renderer there, and we associate the tile if the tile that matches that cell is marked as being on stage, which means it's within the formation. And then when I go and I create the here, when I get the matching cell, I'm always gonna have a matching cell, so I can disable this. So we find let's call this the fog cell, and then let's call this the cell origin, like that. Then we get a fog of war entity and we attach it. Oh, we got a failure. Entity is equal to 0. Yeah, because in create cells, I need to re-enable this thing. So I'm gonna remove the conditional creation of cells. Oh, here in set cells validity, the problem is that some cells don't have a sprite. So what is the case here? So if there's no matching tile, for associated tile, I see what's happening. I feel like this is a case that we'll need to deal with. We need to remove that eventually. But what's happening is we need to check if there's even a sprite here. So if this sprite needs to be So if sprite is not null, so maybe if we add an extra condition. All right, cool. Now I did notice something that I didn't think about, which is that I'm wondering if, because we do still have we do still see outside of the fog, and that's because even by enabling the fog on the whole, the full diamond, the diamond is still too small. The full stage. I wonder if we can increase this, or we get into some problem. Oh, that's perfect, but it also changes the it changes the cutoff. So we're gonna have to play with the value. I think we're gonna have, it's not that we have to, we could think about another way, but for this very early prototyping, I want to, okay, so this is really big now. So the cutoff, so I went from 57 to 64. So that's plus 7. So let's increase this to 35. All right, now we have single corners, which, what if I went to 34? Well, my system to cut off the corner. Oh, there it is. It's a little bit too cut off though. But the jump forward was by 6 here. So let's try 69. And then this one, what was it before? 28. So it went up by 7. Let's try 42. Still gives the same problem. Let's try 67. Oh, 71. Oh, neat. We're back. We found another combination of number. I need to figure out the real rules. I just went with trial and error. I was just on the side trying out different things in JavaScript just until I found a little algorithm that worked for me, but I'm not sure. So now that we have this, if we go into the prefab and we set up the opacity again for the fog to 85, I think we can get a full covered fog covering the entire game. This is too strong, so let's try 35, because the thing is this, the fog stacks up, right? So all right, nice, we have some fog here. Now I'm gonna try to enhance the texture a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in pixel edit, which is a little pixel art software, and I'm going to open up an image. One minute. All right. Actually, this isn't the right one. I'm gonna try to drag and drop because for some reason it's not letting me properly import it. Okay, so I'm importing. So the thing is that I want the thing to be a little bit more contrasted. So I'm really gonna kind of accentuate the contrast. Maybe something like this would pop out a little bit more. Anyway, this is just a temporary test, but I just feel like let's try with something like that has a little bit more difference like this, just to see what happens. So I'm going to export the image, and I'm gonna export it as 1. Then it's gonna arrive here. Just have to reload and change the the image that we're using in the code. Alright, this is already a little bit better. It's not perfect though. I'm not sure I'm gonna really do it like that. I might like do a, I don't know, a shorter tile or something. I also have like these ones. Export image. I need to go to the proper folder. Like that. At least it's not too long to load the different images. So this one is gonna be much. Oh, I didn't rename this one properly. Let's go look at it. All right. So now this one is just broken because the height is too big, so the bounds is too big. So the real size is. Oh, I exported the old image with the. Oh, that's a terrible. I need to do a export selected. Sorry. There we go. So 64 by 192. 192. And then 192 minus 64 is 128, is that it? 128. So I'm just gonna draw this, and then here when I load the map, just for the sake of it, I'll put this for now. Well, it didn't change, almost didn't change anything. There's one thing that I keep thinking about is like when I chose the numbers up here, 71 by 42, I feel like 57. Okay, I'm gonna put like 71 here, 42, and I'm gonna put back these old number. It was easier to see like certain things for validation and stuff, even though I probably do want the full screen fog eventually. So for now I'll keep it like that. And when I create the prefab, I'll put it back to full opacity. It's a bit hard to see if it lines up properly. Oh yeah, we have it be it's still rendering like everywhere, so we could just do this here, same thing. We're just gonna copy this old thing and then do something like that. It's a bit like brute force, but I just want to get to... Okay, so yeah, it does line up perfectly. This is more like, maybe actually, I don't know exactly if, because right now like this I like it, but as soon as there's some opacity I feel like it loses its thing. let's put a really low just to see. See, that's not bad. Maybe now that I have cells that exist outside of the visible ones, maybe I could like just kind of check if the cell is on the board or if there's a neighbor to that cell on the board. So that way we would have like one extra row of fog everywhere. But for now, I think I'll keep it like this. But yeah, it does look weird on the edge. But at least we know it works. So maybe I'm gonna remove that and I'll reset the old value. This was 58 and this was 28 and 57. So let's save these. Okay, so we have a full screen fog. Maybe also once we start to cut shapes in there, it's gonna look better, because right now it's just kind of like full screen, so we don't even see, we don't even really see anything, right? But when we start to like have a character and it removes some of the fog, it's gonna look more interesting. I'm trying to do a little bit more like adjustments, but okay, so yeah, I think I'm gonna start to try to add different kind of other entities that are gonna spawn here and there. Also, like right now, the tiles are randomly barren or green, and these two biomes really don't work together, so it's a little bit weird. But I feel like if everything was just barren, it would be consistent, you know. Just right now we have kind of a mixed match of tiles. It looks a little bit silly, but this is just the very beginning of a project. So. All right, so that's cool. So I think I'm gonna try to load random building. So that should be fairly easy based on what we have now. It should be fairly easy. So in create prefabs, I'm gonna have another one of these here, another prefab, and then from the ECS, of course, the name will be skyscraper, essentially. And we're gonna add the ECS IDs for prefab, and ECS is a ECS lookup ECS, and then we're gonna look up for the board object. Now I'm gonna eventually have a real reference to that, but just using the lookup for now. So we create a skyscraper. We're gonna create a sprite for the skyscraper. Actually, it already exists because it's coming from the board object. And then we're gonna simply get it. And then we're gonna have a name for it. It's gonna be T sprite skyscraper 0 PNG. We're gonna say that sprite should skip renders. I don't know if I really need to set that. Let's try to remove it. And let's bring in the art for that. So I already have a little building I made. Alright, I'm bringing this in. I'm going to reload the CMake. Alright, so we have a skyscraper prefab. Basically, when I load, when I create the overworld in create game world, here I have a byte that decides the biome. And I'm also going to have a thing, so it's going to be another byte, another random test. And then we're going to say if this new byte is less than 20% of the max, so there's going to be 20% chance. Then the tile info, then we're going to say that no, let's add, I'm just thinking a little bit, but in M types, I'm going to add a new array. It's going to be an array of SN32. It's going to take SN32 like that. We'll need to pre-declare SDL. So this here in this tile info, what I'm gonna have is I'm going to create a new array of SN32, which is gonna represent all of the different kind of data to populate the cells properly about entities. Now I'm just wondering, like, maybe I should just keep the same entity. That could be interesting. But then I would have to change a little bit the way I'm going to think about it. Maybe all of the rendering is done in the cell, like including the content of the cells, and then kind of like I could have these entities representing skyscrapers and other kinds of stuff. I could have them be created without a renderer, essentially. So board object wouldn't have a renderer. You know what? This is going to be a decision for another time. For now, I'm going to use a dumb approach just to get some progress. Is this how we write this? Yeah. We're going to do a pretty dumb approach for now, just to kind of keep this tidy. Also, I have some stuff that I need to take care of, so I can't afford to make this too long, essentially. So I'm just gonna do it pretty basic for now, and I can always do some thinking outside of the video. So I'm gonna create the game world there, and if there's this 20% chance occurs, I'm gonna set that there's a skyscraper there. And then when I load my my map here, I'm gonna iterate over all my cells. And I'm going to create the fog there as needs be. And I wonder, maybe it would be wise to get the tile as well. And basically, if get the tile info. This is going to be a constant pointer. And then if the tile has a skyscraper, for now, the tile info indicates that there's a skyscraper. So if it's true, we're going to go and do the skyscraper thing. So we're going to create a new skyscraper. And we just need to give it the right origin for now, the right position. This is something we need to change. I'm gonna do like a list of all the problems to fix soon in this pretty early prototype. So this is just gonna be the origin of that skyscraper. And then the origin will be, so we'll first get the cell here. And here we generate the, what we do here is we generate the fog as usual. And we can also get the stack here of the cell, and we can put inside of it, I'm going to put the entity. So here I'm putting the fog, and here I'm putting the skyscraper. I don't think the skyscraper, it has a height of 192. So, but I don't know if it's gonna work with this value. Let's just reload the CMake script. I don't remember if we did. Alright, so we don't have any skyscraper. I'm not sure exactly why, so we're gonna have to double check. So let's put a breakpoint here and see if we even get, because we also didn't crash. Skyscraper is true. Oh, I think just make sure that first of all in the constructor we set this to false just to be safe. And then when we load the map, when we create the game world, interesting, it's almost like let's go back to the prefab. So there's a board object, there's a skyscraper. Oh, it doesn't have any bounds. That's what's going on. So it doesn't get rendered. It needs bounds. All right, cool. So there's some issue. We need to increase. So it's not decreasing by enough. It's not being placed correctly. So when we load the map here, I think it needs to be 192 for this one. Just their design, the image are not properly placed for now. Actually, it's not that. It's I'm not sure exactly how much it is actually. 128 plus 34 maybe. Okay, this seems a little bit more accurate. Now I think we can go to 160 and just see. Yeah, that seems to line up better. Yes, it does, and even like it might even be better to go a little bit below. All right, cool. So this seems to be working. Now, these are all appearing in front of the fog. It's not really what I want. I'm wondering if I create the fog first. They're probably going to appear all behind. But soon, very soon... Oh, not even... Yeah, so I think we'll really need to... we'll need to implement the sorting function next. It's going to be the big priority because it's going to become like a headache otherwise to reorganize all the objects. But at least if we can have all the objects have a column and a row, you know, we can easily sort through them. Row first, column left to right. Right now, the good news is we have a lot of entities and it's still 120. So that's really good. I'm very happy about this because I was wondering if we could do it just by dumb rendering, you know, just kind of render all the textures, and it seems like it's feasible, at least. I don't know if we go into create game world, if we set this to 100%, like I don't know if what's gonna be the result of that. Yeah, it seems like it's still good. There's still a micro chance that it doesn't spawn, apparently, because it could also be equal. There we go. And it still renders perfectly, so we could have like a full game and it would still be good. It would still render fairly well. I'm just gonna go with 0.5%. There you go. Alright, that's starting to shape up. It was 57 by 28 before. Now I'm just gonna fix the sorting next time so that we can have a nice foggy effect in front of the building. I think that's gonna be really nice. I'm also gonna kind of look into how to adjust the fog at the edges. That's another thing that I want to look into. But eventually we're gonna have like a viewport above everything that's gonna kind of hide some of the sides, and we're gonna allow a moving camera within that viewport, but we're gonna kind of limit the camera to the edges. So there's a lot of, I'm also thinking like if we don't see all of it, like let's say the viewport crops it like that, you know, then this is really neat. So I might just need to play with it a little bit. So I'm going to be committing these changes. We test fog area and adding, we tested the fog area, added opacity. Let's put this first. Added fog opacity, test fog area size. We make the cells always exist, but sprite conditional. New skyscraper. We added the skyscraper. Not the skyscraper. All right, let's just commit and push this. We have to push. So yeah, it's moving well. I need to kind of, I think the main priorities is the sorting function. Then rethinking a little bit like how entities are stored in the full world versus how they're presented in the cells. Because I think in the world we can already have the entity, the flex entity, that can already exist, and these entity they can have a instead of having a sprite, they could have like a lightweight information component, kind of like a tile info, but the object info or something that kind of informs the cell that connects to that tile. So the cell connects to the tile from the world, and then it can read, oh, it has all these entities, and then it can read the game info component of these game object entities to kind of know what to render on the cell. The goal is to make a big world and only render a subsection of it if I can. This is the only way I can think about it, but if some other people have some advice, please let me know in the comments. As for this video, I'm gonna cut it here, and Thank you, everyone. We had a little bit of a rocky start with some of the cats, doing some provocation, but in the end we were able to overcome the enemy.